What's a mistake you made recently
Sure.
that may have either cost you time, money, or credibility?
I invested in a company that I didn't do enough due diligence, and they were doing some things that weren't compliant that I found out about later. And I just said, I don't want to be associated, and I lost millions of dollars. And I just said, I will give you the equity back. I don't even want it. I just don't want to be associated.
What could you have done differently?
Could have done better due
hindsight?
diligence.
What do you look for when
We probably could have reviewed the internal data better. Probably could have done more in-depth interviews with some of the key employees. Could have done more, customer call reviews, both on sales side, marketing side, and also on the delivery side. We probably could have done more of that.
If you were to observe all of the mistakes that acquisition.com makes and assign it like a pie chart, would you say the largest slice of the pie would be lack of due diligence? Or where do you think you lose the most return or value?
Honestly, I think the biggest mistakes we make are hiring. I think it's people. But it's really, fundamentally, it's going to be people at all sides. Like people on the deal side, it's going to be people, like even when you're bringing in talent, like it's a deal. Like you're signing an agreement between two parties in exchange for money. So like the thing is the number of deals that we have to do every day, every week, every month, every year is a lot. And so we're just going to make mistakes. We're going to try our best to learn from them. And we're ultimately going to be rewarded by the quality of our decision making, but we're going to mess up.
When do you know how to cut the business or try to fix it? Like in that case, I would be looking at that and thinking, well, is it worth trying to, or is it just, we can't work with these people?
No, it's that last thing you just said.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. So if someone I think knows about it and hasn't done anything about it, and then we find out about it and say, hey, you should do something about it, and then they don't do anything about it, that's where I'd be like, okay, this isn't going to work. If, a founder's made aware of it, it's kind of like the TCPA thing. Like if, let's say you had opt-ins on a page and you just didn't have like all the disclosures that you're supposed to have to make it compliant to like text somebody or call somebody or whatever, right? If someone did that, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, this guy sucks. I'd be like, oh, he didn't know. Like, let's fix this stuff. And so that's kind of an example. It really comes down to the willingness of the founder to make things right. And I think that's anybody.
Yeah.
Do you have assessments of ethics of the people that you end up partnering with, and how important would you say ethics are? Do you not really consider it, and you just kind of look at the data as you suggest? Because you can ask someone why they do something, and they could say whatever they want, but you don't necessarily know until you've known them for a while.
I feel like there should be a personality test, like the Jordan Peterson personality test.
Does he have them?
He does. He's paid
incredible.
$10 or $15 or something. Understandmyself.com, I think is what it is.
Okay.
It's interesting because you can also, with this data, compare how two personalities will interact with one another. So for example, Graham and I, we were pretty different in a lot of categories, but it did say that we had good cohesion.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. But they have studies for like business and for personality and for relationships.
With large data, you could probably get a pretty good approximation.
It would be interesting.
I don't think we have enough data to actually do like big data like analysis for that. Just if you're thinking of 20s, 30s, like it's not a lot. It's not enough. You need like 30,000, you need a lot more N to have statistical power. We actually used to do a lot more tests earlier on. And I think we ended up foregoing them. Same on the recruiting side. We used to do a lot more like personality testing, things like that. Mostly because the recruiting team ended up being like over-reliant on tests, and then would just like have a star candidate and they'd be like, well, they scored. I'm like, this guy's a stud. Like bring this guy in. And so we ended up doing away with it. I think everybody wants a test to tell them the answer. And so I think in a job where you have a lot of decision-making that has to occur, it's hard to not default to tests because it's so quantitative that you want to just like, it's just kind of like trading algorithms. Like if the algorithm says actually, like you want to have that. And so fundamentally, either it's like, I tend to be somewhat binary in this, but like either we believe this 100% or we kind of don't. And the only times, and I'll quote Layla on this one, but like if we do have a test that we're going to have somebody take on like the recruiting side, the only time that we would really use it if it's a red flag in that it seems like it's completely contrast from what we're seeing. And so if someone's like, oh, I'm really detail-oriented, I'm really timely, I'm really whatever. And then they get on, they're like, I'm a creative and I'm so all over. And they're like, no, that doesn't make sense. So then we're just like, okay, now it's just an ethical issue. They're just lying.
So you're saying you don't want to focus on qualifying someone because if you're testing them, that means you probably have some dissonance between what you think about them and what they say about themselves. And if you,
yeah, I think you will like, this is me talking more as a company owner than anything else, which is like, if you tend to give a team a tool and they have to make a lot of decisions and the tool supposedly helps them with the decision, the law of least effort will typically reign, and they'll just start using the test to make all the decisions. And I think that makes for worse decisions than actually just using everything else.
Do you have a BS meter to tell if people are fake or if they're just maybe a bit of a fraud?
I don't know if I have a BS meter. I think that asking questions can help a lot. So like if someone just walked in and said like, I am a this, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe, if I asked 10 more questions about that thing and I know more about that thing than they do, then I would have a better idea. If someone's talking about how to train a sales team, and they're like, I know how to do that, I'd be like, okay, well, how do you think about this? How do you think about this? And if they gave bad answers, then I'd be like, okay, well, you don't really know how to train a sales team. And so it depends on my skill level within that domain that someone's supposed to, be good at. I think that people have I think people have far more experience deceiving other people than we do protecting against deception. So I think there's always going to be people who are more skilled at deception than people who are better at detecting it. And so I'll say, honestly, I operate from the perspective that I don't know and that I'm probably being deceived, and would I still do it anyways within these guardrails? And so I just try and operate that way.
Mine tend to be if someone's doing really posed photos in front of expensive cars. Usually, it depends on the industry. Bad vibes. Usually head to toe designer. Like if they're really
if they have an iced out watch, like it has
iced
diamonds on it and stuff like that.
Unless you're in the music industry, which is fine. You have to be in an industry.
Even if you're in the music industry, I feel like that's got to be.
It can be. Usually, that's a red flag. And then also, when they describe what they do and you still don't understand how they make their money. There have been some people that just say, oh, I do this and that. I'm like, I don't get it. Could you explain it? And they explain it. And I still don't understand. And then it turns out the dude's just like siphoning money from somebody else. And it turned out the whole thing was smoke and mirrors. I'm like, I had a feeling about that guy.
That I will say, well, it's funny because you say that because then it gets into a domain that I feel comfortable with. Where if someo's like, well, this is how we market, blah, 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 or this is how we sell, this is how we price, this is how we, anything that's business related, I'll be like, no, that doesn't make sense. And it's like, I'm like, I don't know, like I feel confident enough in my skill level to say like, no, that doesn't make sense. But yeah, so I think it's gonna be domain specific for me to be able to say like, I'll have a better judge of character. But still, even then, I want to say deceived, but like I make wrong picks all the time, like with team and people, hiring, things like it happens, it's just part of the game.
What about things that are too good to be true? How often are people pitching you things that seem to be that way and they're actually accurately representing their skill or the value of their business?
I think the too good to be true happens all the time. I've yet to see something that has been too good to be true. I think ChatGPT, when it came out, I was like, that's too good to be true. And then it was. So like, then they became a gazillion-dollar company. I was like, okay, that checks out. That tracks. But most things that are too good to be true, like the saying exists for a reason.